The Sabrael Confession, The Heavenly War Chronicles, Book 1, by Stephen Smith, Chapter 6. The edge of my blade slid from my sleeve, razor sharp, silent, lethal. 6 demon warriors surrounded me, weapons poised. I'd been training for what would have been weeks, months even, if we had such demarcations of time in heaven. The sword was an extension of my right arm now. I was ready for this. The first demon lunged forward, a flurry of strikes sweeping me toward. Lashing out from a defensive stance, I parried on his blade and spun around him to slash across his back. 2 and 3 attacks together, one high, one low. I somersaulted between their weapons, then leapt into a spinning flip, my sword clashing against one of their blades as my feet hit the ground. I ducked into a sweeping, knee-high slash and severed their legs. Flanked by the next 2 fallen, I sidestepped the sweat. Flanked by the next 2 fallen, I sidestepped and swept my sword up between them, darting back and forth, striking high then low. I kept them on the defense until, in a twirling arc, my blade slashed clean through each of their midsections. The final warrior lunged through the air, his heavy mace whistling toward my head. Unable to raise my sword in time, I retracted it back into my sleeve and spun to face him, thrusting my arm up toward his chest. My blade lashed out like a spear, punching through the airborne assailant and stopping him dead, before retracting again, all in the blink of an eye. He fell and I rose, victorious. Applause met my ears. Very good. I turned to find Raphael clapping, a broad smile on his lips. Of course, you may eventually want to test your skills against a real opponent. I looked around the empty space. He was right. Imaginary foes no longer provided much challenge. One can only progress so far when the opposition is essentially himself. Still, I prefer that to the alternative. Let us hope there will never be a need. That time may come sooner than you think, he muttered. What's that supposed to mean? If you would just look down at the earth, you would see. I've told you 1,000 times I won't let earth distract me. If the fallen ever attack again, I want to be fully prepared. Do you even realize how long you've been at this? Sabrael, the war has changed. The fallen are beyond their old tactics. You can't possibly know that. Have you been assigned to watch over hell now? Raphael said, the fallen are not in hell. They broke free long ago. The blade within my sleeve grew heavy as dread boiled up. I told you, you cannot afford to ignore what is happening outside heaven's gates anymore. It is folly to think that simply waving a sword around prepares you for anything. If they're not in hell, where are they? I asked. Where they have been since their escape. Earth. Terror ripped through me. Adam and Eve. We must protect them. Calm down, Raphael said, catching my arm before I could run off. I told you, much has happened while your eyes have been blinded by the glint of the blade. Look. Raphael touched my head, and suddenly an image flashed across my vision. Well, not my vision exactly. I saw it, but not with my eyes. It was more like recalling a memory. Hundreds of humans conversing and building some huge structure. The image was gone as fast as it came. What did you just do? What was that? You see why you need to quit this isolation? You do not even recognize Earth. How can you prepare to fight the fallen when your training is based on what passed ages ago? What I had seen stunned me. So many humans, Adam and Eve, where were they? They are dead. They have been for a very long time. Dead? I had not the slightest idea of the meaning of the word. How could I? There was no such thing in heaven. The last I'd seen them, the original pair was leaving the garden on the day of their banishment. Let me show you what you have missed, Sabrael. There is much you will not understand without seeing it for yourself, for your own good. Please? I pondered it for a moment, but he was probably right. All right. Open your mind to me, and I will show you everything. I had no idea what he meant. Open my mind? Just close your eyes and try not to think. Shouldn't be hard for you. It was a preposterous request, but I did as he said. Eyes closed, I tried to concentrate on the back of my eyelids. Raphael's hands touched my face, and a nauseous, dizzying sensation flooded my mind. I recoiled in alarm, the ground steadying again as I broke contact. Raphael smiled. It's all right, trust me. He stepped closer and his thumbs pressed my eyelids, fingers cradling my head. Suddenly I saw them, Adam and Eve, crying, walking away from Eden. Did Raphael have this power all along? Was there any limit to the mysteries of my brothers nearest the throne? Raphael spoke as his memories flooded my mind. After Adam and Eve were banished, they were punished in other ways as well. You remember the Almighty created them with souls. When they had children, these also had souls. Children? I asked. Mon Dieu, Sabrael, how have you not looked down in so long? Immediately I saw a small human, one that appeared much like Adam, but with less hair on its body. Humans have the ability to reproduce, to create more humans to populate the earth. They are called children, which in time grow to be adults like their parents. Every child is born with a soul. The soul is eternal, but part of the punishment bestowed upon mankind is that their bodies are not. Their bodies break down and no longer function. When this happens, the soul is freed to exist exclusively in the spiritual plane, as we do. This separation is called death, understand? Every human is born, and every human must in turn die. Adam and Eve died long ago, and there have been many generations since, each more numerous than the last. I couldn't wait to look down at this new earth, but a question formed with this thought. If the souls of humans were freed after death, where did they then go? I told you to quiet your mind, Raphael chided. Most of the souls that most of the souls most of the souls of those who died are still on earth. They can't come here, for God decreed no sinful creature will ever dwell within the kingdom again, and every human is born tainted by the sins of those before them. They don't go to hell, for hell is the prison of the damned, and humans are not condemned. For a long time the souls had nowhere to go. They wandered aimless. It was for them the fallen went to earth when they again broke free. The link between us cut off and the images stopped. I blinked away the distortion. I don't understand. How do they keep getting out of what is supposed to be an eternal prison? It cannot be chance that they broke free, not once but twice. Raphael shook his head and exhaled a chuckle. I am not the one to ask that question. Michael has told me it is part of his plan. The plan, the almighty secret agenda that none other than he could know, though he was always quick to inform us when an event was part of it. Raphael continued, unfortunately, after the battle here, Lucifer and the others stayed in hell for only a short time before they made their escape to earth. At first, we thought they were just seeking refuge. As we watched, though, the more sinister agenda became evident. It turns out Satan feels the reason their attack failed was simple numbers. Their entire force of hell carries with it only half the number of the heavenly host. Lucifer believes that in order to conquer us, the fallen require more warriors. Warriors who share his contempt for God, or better yet, who deny God is worthy of the power he holds. These warriors won't come from heaven, of course, but they couldn't come from hell either, for all those in the pit fought in the first assault. When the demons escaped hell, they found the earth teeming with souls, the only other beings existing on the spiritual plane. It was Adramelech's idea to harvest these souls and recruit them for hell's army. What? I could not have heard him correctly. He reached out to touch my eyes. My mind flooded with images again, all sense of my own being vanishing beneath the deluge. The fallen walked the earth enlisting every soul that could fight for them. Many souls were taken by the offer of a release from the nightmare of wandering the world for eternity, unable to interact with the living. These souls signed over their freedom, and in doing so condemned themselves to hell. Still, Satan wasn't pleased. He wanted more than just volunteers. He wanted every soul, dead and alive. He was furious that his demons seemed to be ignoring the living entirely. Then he realized why. Until then, Lucifer was the only one who had ever been to earth, and thus the only one who knew of the physical plane. The rest of the fallen had no idea why so many souls walked around as though blind and deaf. They did not understand the concept of life and death, just as you did not, or that souls are contained in a physical body for a certain time. Lucifer finally called him Lucifer finally called them together and taught them to make physical forms. After that, the fallen were able to turn living humans to their cause. And you did nothing? I asked, furious. You just let this gathering happen? Let them harvest the world without lifting a finger? We wanted to do something, desperately. Michael begged the Father to allow it. God refused. He wanted man to overcome this temptation on his own volition. Why would the humans ever betray the Almighty? They know He is their Creator. They were deceived. With His words came another flood of images. When the fallen took physical form, it was not their own likenesses that they created. They manipulated their matter into other forms, just as Lucifer did when he spoke to Eve in the body of a serpent. Some appeared as men, oracles who brought questioning to the beliefs of the humans and their Maker. Unanswerable, their questions seemed like wisdom, and the disguised demons used the humans' inability to answer as proof that God doesn't exist. Others spun tales of false gods, and the humans began worshipping all sorts of mythical beings. Some of the fallen were masters of this technique, actually convincing the humans that they themselves were the gods of these tales. A few took on frightening forms and forced men to their knees. Soon it became impossible for mankind to tell truth from fiction. Numerous religions absorbed the clever lies propagated by the fallen, using their spiritual abilities to leverage the humans' faith. What of Lucifer? I asked, my voice weak. I hoped my friend of old disapproved of using mass deception to fill his ranks. He was the only one who allowed the humans to see his true form. Not his form as it is now, of course. He showed them what he was, a beautiful being of light, angel perfected. He chose not to mask his black wings, though. Perhaps he can't hide the one mark of his sinful pride. I recalled Lucifer's horrific disfigurement. Flesh burnt away, empty sockets were where his eyes had been. I could have wept again at the image, but Raphael replaced it with new ones. Before long, almost all the earth was under the spell of the fallen. But still Satan was not content. All the souls on earth only numbered in the tens of thousands. The fallen needed more. No other being on earth existed both in the spiritual and physical planes. However, and all attempts to use beasts of the land, sea, and air failed. Without souls, they were useless in the war for the throne. Then why the sadness in your voice? Raphael remained silent for a moment. Let me just say that they tried something then so evil, I cannot bring myself to tell you. You can't tell me all this and then refrain from telling me the worst part. He broke our link. For a moment he said nothing. Then, perhaps it is time for you to look for yourself. Other angels looked up as we approached the place where I used to gaze down at Eden. The expression they all shared chilled me. What did they see that could cause such despair? The mere fact that so few now watch the planet spoke volumes. Raphael put a hand on my shoulder. Before you look, remember that much has changed. It's not the Earth you're expecting. Part of me wanted to draw back. The memory of Earth is still pristine in my mind. Did I really want to taint it with whatever I was about to see? But curiosity had me, and Raphael's apprehension, only stoked the fire. Whatever was down there, I had to see it. Torn between excitement and suspense, I knelt at the place I always have, and with a deep breath, peered down. How can I express what I felt in that first glimpse? I saw not just the earth, but hell's inferno too, teeming with movement. To my amazement, there was now a third place as well, gray, barren. Four of my brothers stood guard at the gates to this place, separated from hell and earth. But the earth, I couldn't believe how much it had changed. Mankind had spread across the entire face of the planet. The sheer number of them was staggering. I'd glimpsed it in Raphael's memories, but my own eyes could not believe it. Everywhere massive groups of people roamed, men and women and the diminutive children of which Raphael spoke. Cities and cultivated farmland dotted the landscape in places where villages of crude, mobile structures blanketed others. My God, Raphael, have I turned my gaze for so long? I asked. Before he answered, something else caught my eye. Mankind wasn't alone. Hidden from human sight, I saw them clearly enough. The fallen were everywhere. Some whispered in the ears of humans from the spiritual plane. Others walked as humans in the physical plane, clothed in the matter of the universe. Some operated alone, some in packs. I could see them all over, and it enraged me. But that wasn't even the extent of it. Long lines of souls wrapped across the earth in a vast web. There were more souls than living humans. Many wandered among the living, trying to get their attention, but gathered around my fallen brothers. Huge crowds of souls swore oaths, worshipped and turned over their freedom to the armies of hell. Whipping my gaze to hell, I looked more closely and realized what the teeming movement was. Thousands upon thousands of human souls were trapped in the prison meant for the fallen. The very demons to whom they had pledged their allegiance subjected them to terrible torments, stirring them into hopeless, fervent rage against God. Unable to watch the spectacle of damnation, I searched the earth for Eden. Surely the garden remained unspoiled by the evils plaguing the rest of the world, but it was gone. All I could see were nations segregated into many cults under the deception of the fallen and the wretched souls of those who died in their worship. I warned you, Raphael said, seating himself beside me. Dozens of generations have come and gone in the time your eyes were turned from the world. Temples dedicated to my fallen brothers stood throughout the inhabited world. When I looked for those dedicated to the Almighty, though, I saw none. I couldn't bring myself to ask Raphael about this, but he plucked a thought from my mind anyway. They no longer recognize him, Raphael said, his gaze stern. There are few left who know God as their creator. Paying tribute to him brings scorn. prejudice, even death. How could this happen? How could this have happened? How could the descendants of Adam and Eve have forgotten the Almighty? They saw him with their own eyes. Sabrael, you do not fully appreciate how long you have been looking away. Look how vast the human race has become. All of them sprang from a single pair. Think how long such a thing would take. No one on earth today knows Adam and Eve even existed. And that does not even account for the flood. His voice trailed off. The flood? I asked, the very words sending a shiver through my body. Raphael's emerald gaze fell to his lap, a troubled look washing over his face. The evil that the fallen created on earth, the creatures they fathered in an attempt to breed the perfect warriors for their cause, brought about a time even darker than what you see now. Lands were ruled by tyrannical, monstrous beings called Nephilim. Wait, stop. What do you mean, the creatures they fathered? From their coupling with human women. His words rang in my ears. I looked down again in shock, scouring the earth for Nephilim. Raphael continued, "They are gone now, washed away in a terrible flood, which covered the world in water deep enough to swallow mountains. Only a handful of humans were allowed to survive. I could barely stand it. I wanted to scream, to weep, to run back to my hall where I was safe from this disaster. It was too much." God made the flood. He killed all those people. You cannot imagine how dark the world has become. The children of the fallen lorded over every land, working the will of their fathers and forbidding worship of the Almighty. Earth was lost. I cannot even bring myself to show you all that happened. Most of our brothers will not even look at the earth anymore. The flood was the only way to cleanse the world. As if to underscore his point, those few angels watching earth when we first approached rose and walked away. How many people were there before the flood? How many died? More than are on earth now. The humans reproduce so fast, though, it will not be long before there are again as many as there were. I was awestruck. So many people killed for their disobedience, only to spring up again and find new ways to head down the same path. Staring at the world below, I couldn't believe what had once been such a perfect paradise could have turned into the festering den of sin I now observed. My head swam to think this was the same place where two lone humans were tails sweeping their legs had once lived. Why tell me all this? I asked him. Why wait so long only to come to me now? Raphael rose from the ground. I tried to tell you before. You would not listen. The earth is your favorite place. It is a tragedy you did not watch what happened to it. But you need to see it now, to know that the threat of the fallen grows as more and more souls are lured into hell's service. Until you saw everything below, you could never have known the magnitude of what may come to bust down our world. What has the Almighty said of all this? I cannot believe he would let mankind slip away to be used as weapons against us. When he saw what was happening, he created the new realm you saw, Sheol, a safe haven where souls can escape the solicitations of the fallen. I looked to the great barren land and the few souls that resided there. Unlike those on earth, these seemed content in death, working together to make a peaceful existence after life. All souls are welcome there if they refuse to join Lucifer, but many still choose to remain on earth or to follow the fallen into hell. Why would he create Sheol to shield these souls, but not allow them into heaven? I do not know. If he has a plan for the souls, he has yet to bring it to light. My anger with my fallen brother seethed. The sight of a world ruled by Lucifer was horrible enough, but much worse was the implication that this was what he would do to heaven were he ever allowed any stake in the throne. The state of the earth was his fault, not the humans. I was sure of it. Mankind had merely been drawn away from the truth by fantastical lies they had no way of disproving. As I watched the living masses engaging in all manners of forbidden acts, the ignorant souls huddled in Sheol, and all those suffering hell's eternal flames, I knew something drastic had to be done.